But instead, it shocked collectors and reached a value whispered in the coin world as over $1 million. A single 1968 D Lincoln penny, small, ordinary, and easily ignored, became the kind of discovery that turns an average day into a life-changing moment. Most people never give a second thought to pennies from the late 1960s. They were mass-produced, spent without care, and forgotten in drawers, jars, and couch cushions. But in 1968, something strange was happening inside the U.S. Mint, and Denver was at the center of it. The country was recovering from a coin shortage, the Mint was under pressure to produce faster than ever before, and quality control quietly began to crack. That pressure created mistakes, and mistakes create legends. Collectors didn't realize it at first. For years, the 1968 D penny passed through millions of hands unnoticed. It jingled in pockets, rolled through vending machines, and sat in cash registers across America. But then, one day, a collector spotted something that didn't look right. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At first glance, it looked like a normal Lincoln cent. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile stared back, calm and unchanged. But under magnification, the coin revealed a secret, a subtle, almost invisible minting error that only the sharpest eyes could catch. The details were off. The strike was wrong. The surface told a story it wasn't supposed to tell. This wasn't just wear. This wasn't damage. This was a rare mint error tied to experimental dyes, transitional metal issues, and misaligned strikes that should never have left the Denver Mint. The kind of error that turns a 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. One collector, sorting through old rolls purchased decades earlier, noticed a 1968 D penny with an unusually sharp date, strange doubling in the lettering, and an almost mirror-like surface where it shouldn't exist. He sent it for professional grading, expecting a modest premium. Instead, the graders froze. Phones were picked up. Experts were called in. This wasn't common. This wasn't even rare. The coin came back certified as one of the finest known error specimens from the Denver Mint that year. The condition was near flawless. The error was undeniable. And suddenly, the whispers began. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. Collectors who had ignored 1968 pennies for decades were digging through jars and boxes with shaking hands. Bidding climbed fast. Numbers jumped higher and higher. What started as a few thousand exploded into six figures. Then came the moment no one expected, bids pushing toward $1 million. The hammer fell, and the coin world changed overnight. A penny most people wouldn't bend down to pick up had rewritten its destiny. Experts now believe a tiny number of these error pennies escaped the Denver Mint in 1968, hidden among billions of normal strikes. They weren't pulled. They weren't melted. They were spent. And they could still be out there. First, the mint mark. It must have a clear D beneath the date. Not weak. Not damaged. A strong Denver Mint mark matters. Second, the strike quality. Many of the highest value examples show unusual doubling in the date or lettering, caused by a misaligned or doubled die. This doubling isn't flat or smeared, it's raised, crisp, and unmistakable under magnification. Then there's the surface. Some of the most valuable specimens show proof-like qualities, even though they were never meant to be proofs. Smooth fields. Sharp rims. An almost reflective finish that shouldn't exist on a standard circulation strike. This combination sends collectors into a frenzy. In a separate discovery, another collector found a 1968 D penny with an off-metal strike, a coin struck on the wrong planchet. The weight was off. The color wasn't quite right. Tests confirmed it wasn't plated damage or alteration. It was a genuine mint error, created during a chaotic period of production. That coin never made it to a public auction. It changed hands privately for a sum whispered to be close to $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were scrambling. And suddenly, the humble 1968 D penny became one of the most searched coins in America. In 1968, gas was cheap, televisions were black and white, and pennies were treated as disposable. No one protected them. No one imagined they'd be worth $1 million one day. That's what makes this story so powerful. The greatest treasures often hide in plain sight. Most 1968 pennies are worth just 1 cent. This is where people make costly mistakes. They see the date, assume value, and get excited too fast. Condition matters. Errors matter. Authentication matters. Cleaning the coin destroys value instantly. One wrong move can turn a potential fortune into pocket change. Start with the date and mint mark. Look for 1968 with a strong D mint mark. Next, examine the lettering and numbers closely under magnification. Look for doubling that appears raised, not flat. Check the surface for unusual smoothness or reflective fields. Weigh the coin if possible. Any deviation could signal an off-metal strike. And above all, never clean it. Some of the highest value coins weren't discovered by professionals. They were found by ordinary people. A retired mechanic. A grocery store cashier. A man sorting through his father's old change jar years after he passed away. One moment of curiosity turned into $1 million miracle. Collectors dream about finds like this, not because they're common, but because they're possible. Every penny tells a story. Most stories are small. But once in a generation, a story explodes into something unforgettable. The 1968 Lincoln penny is one of those stories, born from pressure, mistakes, and a moment in history when perfection slipped just enough to create a legend. Dealers still talk about it. Auction houses still watch for it. And collectors across the U.S., aged 30 to 70, still check their change just in case. Because somewhere, sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can, there may be a coin waiting to rewrite someone's life. But today, collectors whisper its name like a legend, because one example sold for nearly $1 million, and it all started with an ordinary 1970 Lincoln penny. Imagine this. You're holding a small copper coin, dull from years of circulation, the kind you've seen 1,000 times before. You wouldn't think twice about it. But what if that exact penny once slipped through the fingers of history with a mistake so rare, so shocking, that it transformed pocket change into a life-changing fortune? That is exactly what happened with the 1970 mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that rewrote the rules of modern U.S. collecting. In 1970, America was changing fast. The U.S. Mint in Denver was striking millions of pennies every single day, rushing to meet demand. Machines ran nonstop. Dies wore down. Errors happened, and most were caught and destroyed. But a tiny number escaped. And one specific error would later send shockwaves through the coin world. Collectors were stunned when rumors began to surface. A 1970 penny, with details that didn't belong. Letters that looked doubled. Features that seemed slightly off. At first, people laughed it off. Dealers dismissed it as wishful thinking. But then came the first professional authentication, and everything changed. A sharp-eyed collector noticed something almost invisible to the untrained eye. Under magnification, the date showed unusual doubling. The word Liberty appeared thicker, almost vibrating. Even Lincoln's profile carried subtle shadows, as if the coin had been struck twice by fate itself. This wasn't damage. This wasn't wear. This was a genuine minting anomaly, born inside the Denver Mint and never meant to leave. When experts confirmed it was a rare double die variety, phones started ringing. Auction houses paid attention. Prices climbed fast, not hundreds, not thousands, but into six-figure territory. And then came the auction that changed everything. One pristine example, perfectly preserved, surfaced from a private collection. The owner had inherited it, never knowing its true value. When it hit the auction floor, the room went silent. Bidding opened strong. Then it exploded. Collectors competed like never before. Paddle after paddle shot into the air. Gasps echoed through the room. When the hammer finally fell, the price stunned everyone, pushing the value toward $1 million. Dealers were shocked. Veteran numismatists admitted they never expected a modern Lincoln penny to reach that level. And suddenly, every 1970 penny in America mattered. Not every 1970 penny is valuable. In fact, most are still worth just 1 cent. The $1 million examples exist because of extremely specific traits, and missing even one detail can mean the difference between spare change and a life-changing discovery. First, the mint mark. It must have a clear D below the date, indicating it was struck in Denver. No D, no miracle. Then the date itself. Look closely at the numbers. On the rare versions, the 1, 9, 7, and 0 show visible doubling when viewed under magnification. This is not a shadow. This is not machine doubling. True double die errors show strong, rounded separation. Collectors were shocked to learn that the doubling also appears in the lettering. Liberty looks bold and slightly split. In God We Trust may appear thicker than normal. These are the fingerprints of a rare die, and they cannot be faked easily. Some of these pennies were struck on the wrong planchet composition, showing unusual metal characteristics. Weight variations. Color differences. When tested, they revealed anomalies that added even more value. Combine a double die with exceptional condition, and suddenly you're not talking about thousands, you're talking about history. Condition is everything. A circulated example with wear might still be valuable, but the ones that reach jaw-dropping prices are in near-perfect condition. Sharp edges. Full detail in Lincoln's hair. No scratches. No corrosion. Coins graded MS-67 or higher are the ones that ignite bidding wars. These coins were not pulled from vaults. They were found in change jars. Old coffee cans. Forgotten drawers. One man reportedly discovered his while sorting pennies with his grandson. Another came from an estate sale, mixed in with ordinary coins. One moment of curiosity turned into a financial miracle. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on this coin now. The population of verified examples is incredibly small, and demand keeps growing. As more people learn the truth, fewer remain available. Prices rise. Competition intensifies. This is the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Because unlike ancient gold coins or colonial rarities, the 1970 Lincoln penny once circulated everywhere. Grocery stores. Gas stations. School lunch lines. Millions of Americans touch them, and most never look twice. To identify one today, you need patience and focus. Use a magnifying glass. Check the mint mark. Study the date carefully. Compare the lettering. Weigh the coin if possible. Avoid cleaning it, that alone can destroy its value instantly. If something feels different, trust your instincts and have it professionally evaluated. The coin world has already seen how a simple 1970 Lincoln penny transformed from spare change into a symbol of possibility. A reminder that treasure doesn't always glitter. Sometimes it's copper-colored, scratched, and hiding in plain sight. But instead, it shocked the coin world and reached nearly $1 million. A single Lincoln penny from 1982, no mint mark, the kind most people have held without a second thought. And yet, this tiny piece of copper changed one ordinary life forever. Imagine this for a moment. A man empties his pockets at the end of a long day. Receipts. Keys. Loose change. Among them, a dull brown penny. 1982. No mint mark. He almost tosses it aside. Almost. But something about it feels different. He flips it over, weighs it in his hand, and unknowingly holds the beginning of a story that would leave collectors speechless. Because 1982 wasn't just another year for pennies. It was chaos at the U.S. Mint. Rising copper prices forced an emergency change in how pennies were made. Some were struck in solid copper. Others were struck in zinc with a thin copper coating. Machines were adjusted. Dies were swapped. Errors happened. And in that confusion, history was accidentally created. Collectors were shocked when they realized what slipped through. A no mint mark 1982 Lincoln penny, struck in the wrong metal, with the wrong weight, and sometimes the wrong design style. A coin never meant to exist. A mistake buried in pocket change for decades. One of these pennies was submitted for grading. The scale told the truth before anyone else could. Not zinc. Copper. Heavier than it should be. The room went silent. Experts rechecked it again and again. When authenticity was confirmed, words spread fast. Dealers started calling. Collectors started bidding. What began as 1 cent turned into headlines, auctions, and whispers of $1 million values. The 1982 penny exists in multiple versions. Large date. Small date. Copper. Zinc. Philadelphia mint coins without a mint mark. Denver coins with AD. And the rarest of them all? A no mint mark penny that should be zinc, but isn't. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these because they represent the perfect storm. A transitional year. Metal confusion. Human error. And extremely low survival numbers. Some experts believe only a handful of the most valuable versions exist. Not hundreds. Not dozens. Just a few. One collector described the moment he realized what he had as unreal. His hands were shaking. His heart was racing. Because he didn't search through a vault or an ancient hoard. He checked a jar of loose change that had been sitting untouched for years. When auction results surfaced, prices climbed higher than anyone expected. 6 figures became normal. Then whispers of 7 figures began. The right coin, in the right condition, with the right verification, pushed into life-changing territory. A penny worth $1 million wasn't just a headline anymore, it was real. Because this coin does not look rare at first glance. Abraham Lincoln stares forward like always. The Lincoln Memorial sits quietly on the reverse. No gold shine. No dramatic markings. No obvious clue screaming treasure. That's why so many were spent. Lost. Forgotten. But what really drives the value through the roof is a combination of factors coming together perfectly. The absence of a mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia. The date 1982 means it could belong to either metal era. The weight tells the truth, around 3.11 grams for copper, not 2.5 grams for zinc. And then there's the date style, large or small, which narrows the field even further. One dealer famously said that the 1982 no mint mark copper penny is one of the most dangerous coins to ignore because it hides in plain sight. It doesn't beg for attention. It waits patiently for someone curious enough to look closer. More examples began surfacing. Not many, just enough to prove it wasn't a one-time fluke. Each new discovery confirmed the story. Each one sent prices climbing higher. And with every auction, demand grew stronger. Collectors aged 30 to 70 started digging through old jars, inherited collections, childhood piggy banks. First, the date. It must be 1982. Second, no mint mark under the date. That means Philadelphia. Third, the weight. This is critical. Use a precise digital scale. If it weighs close to 3.11 grams, your heart should start pounding. Fourth, examine the date style carefully. Some of the most valuable examples are small date varieties struck on copper planchets that were never supposed to be used. Common mistakes ruin dreams. People assume all copper-colored pennies are copper. They're not. Zinc pennies are copper-plated and fool the eye easily. Others damage their coins by cleaning them, destroying value instantly. Some never get professional authentication and rely on guesses instead of facts. If you believe you've found one, stop. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Store it safely and have it evaluated by a professional grading service. That single step can be the difference between a story and a verified treasure. But collectors say it reached a value close to $1 million, and the truth behind it still sends chills through the coin world. Imagine this for a second. You're cleaning out an old drawer, dumping loose change into a jar, barely looking at it. Among dull pennies and forgotten nickels sits a single 1985 D Lincoln penny. Brown, ordinary, nothing special at first glance. Most people would spend it without a second thought. But one collector didn't. And that hesitation changed everything. Because hidden inside certain 1985 D mint mark Lincoln pennies is a secret so rare, so shocking, that seasoned dealers still argue about it today. This wasn't supposed to happen. The U.S. Mint struck millions of pennies that year in Denver, pumping them out at full speed. Quality control was rushed. Dies were overused. Machines slipped. And in that chaos, a tiny number of pennies were born, different. At first, nobody believed it. A 1985 D penny worth serious money? Impossible. The price guide said pocket change. Dealers laughed it off. But then one coin appeared at a private appraisal. Then another. Then a third. And suddenly, whispers turned into panic. Under magnification, experts noticed something terribly wrong, or incredibly right, depending on how you look at it. The lettering wasn't normal. Lincoln's portrait looked subtly distorted. The mint mark sat just slightly off, as if it didn't belong. Even the surface texture told a story of something gone wrong at the mint. This wasn't wear. This wasn't damage. This was a minting mistake, the kind collectors dream of. One collector, an average working man, claimed he found his example in a roll of pennies from a local bank. No auction. No estate sale. Just pocket change. He almost ignored it, until the coin caught the light just right. Something felt off. He held on to it. And that decision would haunt and inspire collectors forever. Experts identified an extreme die error combined with a rare strike anomaly, a perfect storm that almost never survives circulation. The coin shouldn't exist. Yet there it was. And when word spread, dealers began scrambling. Phones rang nonstop. Offers were made behind closed doors. Numbers climbed fast. Another specimen surfaced years later, even sharper, even more dramatic. This one showed doubled features so bold they could be seen without magnification. The Lincoln Memorial lines appeared warped. The date looked unstable, almost vibrating. And the Denver Mint mark, the D, seemed misplaced, as if it had shifted during the strike. Because to the untrained eye, it's just another old penny. But to collectors who know what to look for, it's a once-in-a-lifetime error. The kind that rewrites price guides. The kind that creates legends. Auction rumors began circulating. Private sales, sealed deals, amounts never officially confirmed. But one figure kept coming up again and again, over $1 million for a pristine example with the right combination of errors. When high-resolution images hit collector forums, disbelief turned into obsession. People tore through jars, boxes, and inherited coin collections. Some searched for years. Others gave up too early. A third coin was discovered, not by a professional, not by a dealer, but by someone going through their late father's belongings. It sat in a small envelope marked 1985 change. No protection. No holder. Just sitting there, waiting. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were furious they missed it. And the owner's life changed forever. The 1985 D Lincoln penny is still out there. Millions were minted, but only a microscopic number carry the traits that drive these insane values. And many are still undiscovered because people don't know what to look for. First, check the mint mark. It must be a D, struck in Denver. No mint mark won't qualify for this specific rarity. Next, examine the date. Look closely at the numbers. Any doubling, thickness, or instability is a red flag in the best possible way. Now move to Lincoln's portrait. Pay attention to the ear, the jawline, and the lettering in Liberty. On valuable examples, details may appear doubled, stretched, or slightly melted looking. That's not damage, that's a die error. The Lincoln memorials should look sharp but strange. Watch the columns. Are they uneven? Do lines look doubled or distorted? Is the spacing inconsistent? These are signs collectors go crazy for. Finally, inspect the surface. Genuine million-dollar level examples often show unusual texture, not scratches, not corrosion, but a look that feels wrong for a normal penny. This is where most people make mistakes. They assume it's damage and toss the coin away. But today, collectors whisper about it as a penny that could be worth over $1 million. Imagine this for a second. You're cleaning out an old drawer, dumping loose change into a jar, barely paying attention. One ordinary-looking 1978 D Lincoln penny slips through your fingers. Brown. Worn. Forgettable. The kind of coin people toss aside every single day. But what if that exact penny carried a secret so shocking that it could change your life forever? The 1978 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny was never supposed to be special. It was struck in Denver during a year when millions upon millions of pennies poured out of the U.S. Mint. No celebration. No silver. No gold. Just another copper cent meant to circulate, to be spent, lost, and forgotten. And for decades, that's exactly what happened. Collectors didn't notice at first. Dealers ignored them. Banks passed them along like any other cent. And that's what makes this story so chilling. The most valuable versions of this coin didn't announce themselves. They hid quietly in pocket change, waiting for the right eyes to notice something was terribly, unbelievably wrong. Because one discovery proved that a simple 1978 penny could carry minting mistakes so rare, so dramatic, that experts began whispering values approaching $1 million. The backstory starts inside the Denver Mint, where machines were running at full speed. Dies were reused. Pressures fluctuated. Quality control slipped for just a moment, and that moment created chaos frozen in copper. A few pennies were struck with errors so extreme they shouldn't exist at all. We're talking about doubled dies so bold you can see them without magnification. Off-metal strikes that defied logic. Coins struck on the wrong planchet, with weights that didn't match any standard penny from that year. Pennies with distorted lettering, stretched dates, and mint marks that look like they're melting into the coin. He was a middle-aged man, not a millionaire, not a dealer, just someone who enjoyed searching rolls of pennies after work. Late one night, exhausted, he almost gave up. Then he saw it. The date looked strange. The lettering felt alive. As if it were vibrating. What he held in his hand wasn't just a penny. It was a 1978 Lincoln cent with a dramatic double die obverse, doubling so strong that Lincoln's profile appeared to shift, and the words "I in God we trust" looked like they were echoing themselves. Because another example surfaced, even more extreme. A 1978 penny struck on the wrong metal planchet, creating a coin that physically should not exist. Its weight was off. Its color was wrong. And yet the strike was perfect. The kind of mint error that happens once in a generation, if that. Dealers are still talking about the private sale that followed. No public auction. No headlines. Just quiet negotiations, phone calls, and disbelief. The final number? Whispered, not advertised. Close enough to $1 million that it changed how collectors looked at 1978 pennies forever. Because unlike famous rare coins locked away in museums, these pennies were released into circulation. They passed through gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, and children's piggy banks. No alarms. No warnings. Most people glance at a penny for half a second, just long enough to see the date and move on. That's exactly why these coins are still out there. Hiding. Waiting. As word spread, collectors began rechecking old rolls, jars, and inherited collections. And more strange 1978 pennies started to appear. Not all worth millions, but enough to prove one thing beyond doubt. Because the US Mint never recalled these coins. They were never tracked. And to this day, no one knows exactly how many error pennies escaped. Now let's talk about how to identify this exact coin. Because this is where fortunes are made or lost. First, the date. It must read 1978 with a clear D mint mark below the date. No mint mark means Philadelphia. And while those can have errors too, the legendary versions are Denver strikes. Next, the lettering. Look closely at "I in God we trust," Liberty, and the date itself. If you see strong doubling, not blur, not wear, but crisp, separated lines, your heart should start racing. Then check Lincoln's profile. His eye, nose, and beard are critical. Doubling here is one of the biggest red flags that something extraordinary is happening. Now weigh the coin. This step has changed lives. A standard 1978 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. If it's significantly heavier or lighter, stop everything. That could mean an off-metal strike, the kind collectors dream about. And here's the mistake that ruins dreams: cleaning the coin. Never clean it. Ever. Cleaning can destroy hundreds of thousands of dollars in value instantly. Get it authenticated. Let professionals confirm what you have. Because guessing is cheap, proof is priceless. But instead, it shocked the coin world and was whispered about as a $1 million discovery that no one saw coming. Picture this for a moment. A regular afternoon. Loose change dumped from a pocket onto a kitchen table. Among the nickels and dimes sat an ordinary-looking 1996 D Lincoln penny, dull, brown, and forgotten. No silver shine. No dramatic weight. Just 1 cent. But what happened next stunned seasoned collectors who had spent decades chasing treasure, because this penny was hiding a secret that could change a life forever. Back in 1996, the Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. The presses were running non-stop, machines roaring day and night. Speed mattered more than perfection, and in moments like that, history slips through the cracks. Tiny errors. Microscopic flaws. Accidents no one notices, until years later, when collectors realize something went terribly, wonderfully wrong. Most 1996 D pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. But a small handful were born different. Something happened during striking, a die flaw, a planchet anomaly, or a rare transitional error that was never meant to exist. These coins slipped into circulation quietly, mixed with everyday change, never flagged, never recalled. And for years, they were spent at gas stations, dropped in tip jars, and tossed into junk drawers. It wasn't found in a bank vault. It wasn't part of a famous collection. It came from pocket change. One collector noticed something off, a strange texture, an unnatural sharpness in Lincoln's portrait, and details on the lettering that simply didn't match known examples. He almost ignored it. Almost spent it. But curiosity won. When experts examined the coin, the room went silent. Magnification revealed anomalies that should not exist on a standard 1996 D penny. The strike was wrong. The surface told a story of pressure and metal flow that didn't match official mint records. And then came the moment that sent chills through the numismatic world, confirmation that this penny was struck from a rare defective die, possibly paired with an unusual planchet. Word spread fast. Dealers started calling. Collectors whispered. Auction houses took notice. When the coin finally appeared in private negotiations, the price skyrocketed beyond logic. What began as spare change turned into a conversation about $1 million, not once, but again and again, as offers climbed higher, because this wasn't just a coin. It was a documented mint accident that should never have survived. Coins like this are time capsules of human error, and collectors crave them. They prove that even the most controlled systems can fail, and when they do, magic happens. That means somewhere, in a coffee can, an old wallet, a forgotten drawer, another 1996 D Lincoln penny could be waiting, silently holding the potential of $1 million moment for someone who has no idea what they own. Look closely at Lincoln's face. On the rare examples, the details appear unusually sharp or oddly distorted at the same time, a contradiction that shouldn't exist. Check the lettering in Liberty and I in God We Trust. Any doubling that looks thick, not flat. Any spacing that feels wrong. These are not dramatic errors you spot from across the room. These are secrets revealed only to those who slow down and really look. The D Mint mark must look correct, not added, not altered. It should be slightly tilted and positioned exactly where Denver placed it in 1996. Many people ruin valuable coins by scratching, cleaning, or trying to fix them. One wrong move can destroy hundreds of thousands of dollars in value instantly. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on confirmed examples, because these coins don't come back to the market often. Once a collector locks one away, it may disappear for decades. That scarcity feeds the legend. Every year that passes without another discovery makes the remaining hidden coins even more powerful. Imagine the emotional weight of that moment. The disbelief. The shaking hands. The realization that a single cent carried more value than a house, a car, or years of work. Stories like this are why collectors never stop searching. Why magnifying glasses sit on kitchen tables. Why jars of pennies refuse to be dumped at the bank. Some specialists believe the true value hasn't peaked yet. As fewer examples are confirmed and demand grows, prices could climb even higher. Auction houses love mystery, and this coin has plenty of it. No official mint apology. No press release. Just silence, and silence makes legends. Do not clean the coin. Ever. Cleaning destroys the original surface and can reduce $1 million coin to face value. Do not test it with chemicals. Do not polish it. Handle it by the edges only. If you suspect you have something unusual, place it in a soft holder and seek professional grading immediately. Compare your coin to verified images from trusted sources. Look for consistency in the error. Many fakes exist, and many hopeful collectors convince themselves they've struck gold. But the real ones stand apart once you know what to see, and remember, condition matters. Even the rarest error loses power if it's heavily damaged. Sharp details, natural color, and untouched surfaces are what separate legends from disappointments. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many of these pennies might still be out there, hiding in plain sight. And that realization has sparked a quiet frenzy across America. People are checking rolls again. Old collections are being reopened. Change jars are suddenly dangerous, because they might contain something extraordinary. But today, collectors whisper about it as a discovery worth $1 million. A single 1997 D mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably held, spent, or ignored, quietly crossed from pocket change into legend, and the story behind it still sends shockwaves through the US coin world. It began like any other day. Loose change dumped on a kitchen table. Pennies piled together without a second thought. But buried in that ordinary mess was a copper coin with a Denver mint mark, struck in 1997, hiding something no one expected. At first glance, it looked normal. Lincoln's familiar profile. The Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing flashy. Nothing special. And that's exactly why this story is so terrifying, and so thrilling. Back in the late 1990s, the US Mint was producing pennies at massive speed. Machines ran nonstop. Quality control was pushed to its limits. And that's when rare mistakes slipped through, mistakes so subtle that even experienced collectors missed them for years. The 1997 D penny became ground zero for one of the most mysterious error discoveries in modern coin history. The coin didn't scream rare. But under magnification, something was wrong. The lettering wasn't quite right. The spacing felt off. Lincoln's details looked sharper in places they shouldn't be, and weaker where strength was expected. When experts examined it further, their reaction changed from curiosity to disbelief. Because this wasn't wear. This wasn't damage. This was a minting anomaly, possibly linked to a transitional die error, a misaligned strike, or a die that should have been destroyed but wasn't. A forgotten die. A mistake buried under millions of normal pennies. Another example surfaced. Then another. Always from pocket change. Always from circulation. Never from mint sets. And every time, the same story repeated. Someone almost spent it, someone almost lost it, someone nearly threw it away. When one of these rare 1997 D pennies appeared at a private auction, collectors didn't hesitate. Bidding escalated fast. 5 figures turned into 6. 6 figures turned into whispers of $1 million territory. Dealers leaned in. Phones came out. Offers were made behind closed doors. The idea that regular people, not museums, not vaults, not wealthy investors, could still discover a life-changing treasure hiding in plain sight. A coin from the 1990s. Not ancient. Not gold. Not silver. Just a penny dot on the obverse. Lincoln's portrait shows subtle doubling that isn't the common machine doubling most collectors ignore. This doubling has depth. Thickness. A rounded edge that proves it came from the die itself. The date shows irregular spacing. The mint mark D isn't punched, it's integrated, and its position is critical. Too high or too low, and the value disappears. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial reveals faint distortions in the columns. Not damage. Not wear. A production error frozen in copper. And the strike pressure tells its own story, stronger than normal, as if the press hesitated for just a fraction of a second. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle when he decided to check his pennies instead of spending them. He wasn't a professional numismatist. He wasn't wealthy. He was just curious. And curiosity changed his life. Once word got out, demand exploded. Dealers started advertising aggressively. Collectors rechecked rolls. Old jars came down from shelves. People who hadn't looked at their change in decades suddenly saw pennies differently, because the 1997 penny only reaches extreme value under very specific conditions. Condition matters. Surface preservation matters. No cleaning. No polishing. One wrong move can erase hundreds of thousands of dollars in value instantly. The U.S. Mint never acknowledged the error publicly. No recall. No announcement. Which means these coins blended seamlessly into everyday commerce. Gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, coffee shop counters. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin not because it's old, but because it proves that miracles don't belong only to the past. They're still happening. Right now. In your pocket. They chase shiny examples. They ignore circulated coins. They focus on color instead of structure. And that mistake costs them everything. Because the true value of the 1997 Lincoln penny isn't in how pretty it looks. It's in how wrong it looks. Slight doubling. Strange spacing. Unnatural sharpness. A feeling that something isn't normal, even if you can't explain why. Start with the date, 1997. Look closely at the D mint mark under the date, not just that it's there, but how it sits. Examine Lincoln's profile under magnification. Any true doubling must look raised, not flat. Check the reverse columns for distortion. Avoid cleaned coins at all costs. And never assume a worn penny is worthless. Some of the most valuable examples were pulled straight from circulation. But what happened next shocked the entire coin world and turned ordinary pocket change into over $1 million. Imagine this for a second. You reach into your pocket after a long day, pull out a few coins, and without thinking, you toss them onto a table. Pennies. Worthless, right? That's exactly what one man thought in the late 1990s when a dull, brown Lincoln penny from 1979 caught his eye for just one strange reason. It didn't look right. And that tiny moment of hesitation changed his life forever. This wasn't just any penny. It was a 1979 D mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin struck in Denver during a chaotic and overlooked period in U.S. mint history. At the time, America was dealing with inflation, metal shortages, and massive demand for small change. The mint was pushing out billions of coins at high speed. And when that happens, mistakes slip through. At first glance, the 1979 D penny looks ordinary. Lincoln's familiar profile. The date clearly visible. That small D mint mark below the year. Nothing that would stop the average person from spending it. But this is where the story takes a turn that still gives veteran collectors chills. Because hidden among millions of normal 1979 D pennies were a handful of freak errors so rare, so perfectly wrong, that they rewrote price guides overnight. One of these pennies surfaced at a small regional coin show. No spotlight. No fanfare. Just a quiet collector who pulled a coin from a flip and asked the dealer a simple question. Does this look strange to you? The coin showed an abnormal strike. The metal composition, the weight, the sharpness of the design, none of it matched what a 1979 D penny was supposed to be. Under magnification, the penny revealed signs of being struck on the wrong planchet, possibly intended for an entirely different denomination or experimental metal batch. Errors like this aren't supposed to leave the mint. And almost never in collectible condition. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. Auction houses started calling. Because this wasn't just rare, it was a once-in-a-generation discovery. A penny that proved, once again, that history's biggest treasures don't always come in gold bars, sometimes they come from spare change. When the coin finally went to auction, expectations were high, but no one predicted what actually happened. Bidding opened strong. Then stronger. Then completely out of control. Two private collectors went head-to-head, either willing to walk away. The room went silent as the numbers climbed higher and higher. When the hammer finally fell, the final price crossed into territory most people associate with mansions and private jets, not pennies. A coin once worth 1 cent, now worth more than many people earn in a lifetime. $1 million. From a penny most people would ignore, The U.S. Mint never officially admitted how many era pennies escaped during 1979. Records are incomplete. Quality control was stretched thin. And that means some of these ultra-rare mistakes could still be sitting in jars, drawers, or old coffee cans across the country. Not every valuable 1979 D penny is a dramatic wrong planchet error. Some show extreme double dies, where the date or lettering appears doubled due to a misaligned die during striking. Others display off-center strikes so severe they look fake, but they're completely real. Some have missing elements, distorted rims, or unusual metal coloration that instantly raises red flags for professionals. The penny that reached $1 million wasn't worn flat by decades of circulation. It survived. Sharp details, clear lettering, minimal damage. That combination of a rare error plus exceptional condition is what creates explosive value. Today, serious collectors actively hunt 1979 D pennies. Not casually, obsessively. They weigh them, magnify them, compare them to known examples. Because even one overlooked error could mean financial freedom. To identify this exact coin, you start with the basics. Look for the 1979 date and the D mint mark below it. Then check the weight. Unusual weight is often the first sign of a wrong planchet. Examine the color. Anything that looks silvery, unusually dark, or brassy deserves attention. Use magnification to inspect the date and lettering for doubling or distortion. Look at the strike. Is it centered or oddly shifted? Does Lincoln's face look unusually sharp or strangely flat? That's one of the most common and heartbreaking mistakes. Cleaning can destroy value instantly, even on a potential $1 million coin. Leave it exactly as it is. Store it safely. And if anything seems off, have it professionally evaluated. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. One overlooked penny turned into generational wealth. And the coin world knows this wasn't luck. It was awareness. So the next time you see a handful of pennies, pause. Look closer. Because that ordinary-looking 1979 D Lincoln penny might not be ordinary at all. But instead, it shocked collectors, froze auction rooms, and became whispered about as a $1 million penny hiding in plain sight. Imagine this for a moment. You're emptying your pockets at the end of a long day. Receipts, keys, loose change. A single Lincoln penny from 2016 rolls across the table. It looks modern, ordinary, forgettable. Most people wouldn't even look twice before tossing it back into circulation. But what if that exact penny, the 2016 D mint mark Lincoln cent, carried a secret so rare that collectors would pay over $1 million just to hold it? This isn't hype. This is the kind of story that makes seasoned coin dealers sit up straighter and makes everyday people rethink every coin they've ever spent. That year, billions of pennies were struck. Machines ran nonstop. Quality control was pushed to the limit. And in moments like that, when speed overtakes perfection, history sometimes slips through unnoticed. A handful of coins escaped the mint carrying microscopic mistakes, metal anomalies, and striking errors so extreme that experts later said, "This should never exist." One collector, an ordinary American just like you, was sorting through pocket change after a grocery run. No gloves. No magnifier. Just habit. Something felt off about one penny. The weight wasn't right. The shine didn't behave like copper-plated zinc. He almost ignored it. Almost spent it. When the coin was examined under magnification, jaws dropped. The strike was off-center in a way that shouldn't have passed inspection. The lettering showed doubling so sharp it looked like the coin was vibrating. Even more shocking, tests suggested the wrong metal planchet may have been used, a mistake so rare in modern minting that many experts once believed it was impossible. When news quietly spread among high-end collectors, phones started ringing. Dealers who hadn't touched modern pennies in decades suddenly wanted this one coin. Offers climbed fast. 50,000. 100,000. $500,000. And then a private sale rumor surfaced. A verified 2016 D Lincoln penny connected to a major error reportedly valued at $1.1 million. The 2016 D mint mark Lincoln penny doesn't scream rarity. Abraham Lincoln's portrait looks familiar. The date feels recent. That tiny D under the date? You've seen it 1,000 times. That's why these coins slip through fingers every single day. The most valuable examples show dramatic errors. Off-metal strikes where the coin weighs noticeably more than normal. Strong doubled dies where Lincoln's eye, beard, or the word liberty appears split or shadowed. Off-center strikes where part of the design is missing but still shows a full date and mint mark, a combination collectors obsess over. A circulated error might be worth thousands. But an uncirculated, sharp, untouched 2016 D penny with a major mint error? That's where the word $1 million enters the conversation without hesitation. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, not because they're common, but because they're disappearing. Every year, more are lost to circulation. Scratched. Spent. Destroyed. The window is closing. Think about the rolls of pennies in drawers. Old jars on shelves. Coffee cans in the garage. Coins your kids brought home from school. No one suspects modern change. That's exactly why these treasures survived. A second discovery surfaced. Another 2016 D penny, found in a bank roll, showing a dramatic die break running through Lincoln's portrait, a scar frozen in metal. The grading service authenticated it. The buzz returned. Suddenly, people weren't laughing at modern pennies anymore. They were searching. Check the mint mark. It must have a clear D under the date. Look closely at Lincoln's face, especially the eye, ear, and beard, for doubling that isn't flat or worn. Tilt the coin under light. If the surface reflects strangely or the color feels wrong, weigh it. A normal 2016 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. Anything significantly heavier or lighter could signal an off-metal strike. Examine the edges. Smooth where they shouldn't be. Gaps in the design. Letters cut off but still readable. These are the clues. And avoid the biggest mistake people make, cleaning the coin. The moment you clean it, you destroy the value. A $1 million coin can become a 10-cent mistake in seconds. If you think you found something unusual, don't guess. Get it professionally graded. Authentication is everything at this level. Because somewhere out there, another person is about to experience what that first collector felt: disbelief, fear, and then the realization that a single penny changed their entire future. That dull little coin you've ignored for years might be the one experts dream of finding. A modern mistake. A silent survivor. A once-in-a-lifetime error. But it shocked collectors and sparked whispers of a sale climbing toward $1 million. A single Lincoln penny. Dated 1992. Struck in Denver. Something millions of Americans have held in their hands without ever realizing what it could be hiding. Imagine this for a moment. You're emptying your pockets at the end of a long day. Loose change hits the table. Pennies, nickels, nothing special. And right there, mixed in with the rest, is a 1992 D mint mark Lincoln penny. Ordinary. Forgotten. Overlooked. Or so it seems. Because for one collector, this exact coin turned into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that changed everything. At first, nobody paid attention to the year. 1992 wasn't ancient. It wasn't Silver Era. It didn't scream rarity. Dealers passed them by every day. Banks dumped them into rolls by the thousands. And that's exactly why this story is so unsettling, because the most valuable treasures are often the ones nobody bothers to look at. A sharp-eyed collector noticed something was off. Not dramatic at first. Just a feeling. The spacing. The details. The way the letters sat on the coin. He had seen tens of thousands of Lincoln pennies, but this one felt different. And that moment of curiosity would eventually lead to rumors of a penny valued at over $1 million. Collectors were shocked when word began to spread. A 1992 D penny? Worth that much? Most people laughed. Some said it was impossible. Others said it was just another internet myth. But then photos surfaced. Experts leaned in. Magnifying glasses came out. And suddenly, the laughter stopped. Because hidden within the 1992 Lincoln penny series are minting anomalies so subtle that even experienced collectors missed them. These weren't dramatic off-center strikes or cracked dies you could spot from across the room. These were quiet mistakes. The kind that slip through quality control and vanish into circulation, where they wait for decades. During the early 1990s, the U.S. Mint was transitioning designs, dies, and production processes. That period created opportunities for rare combinations that were never supposed to exist. Wrong dies. Unexpected spacing. Transitional features that shouldn't have crossed paths. And when one of those mistakes shows up on a Denver minted 1992 penny, everything changes. One collector reportedly sent a suspicious 1992 D penny for professional authentication. No expectations. Just curiosity. Weeks later, the results came back, and the phone call changed his life. The coin wasn't just unusual. It was extraordinary. The kind of error that creates bidding wars. The kind of coin that elite collectors fight over in hushed auction rooms. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on examples like this because they know something most people don't. Pennies from this era were minted by the billions, but only a microscopic fraction carried the exact traits that trigger seven-figure valuations. And once those are locked away in private collections, they're gone forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, not because he was lucky, but because he looked closer when everyone else stopped caring. And here's the part that keeps experts awake at night. No one knows how many of these pennies are still out there. They weren't recalled. They weren't destroyed. They were spent. Used to buy coffee. Dropped in parking lots. Tossed into jars. Sitting right now in drawers, jars, and boxes across the country. As rumors of private sales and staggering valuations spread, more people started checking their change. And slowly, more suspicious examples began to surface. Not all were real. Many were close, but not close enough. And that's where the heartbreak comes in. Being one detail off can mean the difference between face value and $1 million. Collectors were stunned by how easy it is to miss the key signs. Under normal lighting, the coin looks boring. Under casual inspection, it's just another Lincoln cent. But under magnification, the story changes completely. The mint mark itself must be a clear D, sharply struck beneath the date. Weak or damaged mint marks don't qualify. Then your eyes move to the lettering. The spacing between key letters. The alignment of the design. Certain features appear closer than they should be. Others look sharper, more intentional, almost as if two different worlds collided on one coin. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many fake claims were flooding the market. Scratched coins. Altered dies. Wishful thinking. That's why condition matters so much. A genuine high-value example must be original, uncleaned, and professionally verified. Cleaning the coin, even gently, can destroy its value instantly. Even worn examples with the correct characteristics have commanded unbelievable attention. Because rarity beats condition when the error is extreme enough. That's why experts urge people not to dismiss circulated pennies. The coin that changed one collector's life wasn't shiny. It wasn't perfect. It was simply real. Imagine the emotional moment. Sitting at a desk. A small brown envelope. Inside, a single penny. And a certification confirming that it's one of the rarest 1992 D Lincoln cents ever discovered. The kind of coin that auction houses quietly fight over. The kind of coin that rewrites retirement plans. Dealers are whispering about what the next confirmed sale could bring. Private offers. Quiet negotiations. Numbers that don't sound real. And all of it traced back to a coin that once bought absolutely nothing. They assume every 1992 D penny is valuable. It's not. Most are worth 1 cent. Some a few cents more. Only a razor-thin fraction carry the exact combination of traits that push values into life-changing territory. That's why education is everything. To identify this exact coin, you must slow down. Check the date. Confirm it reads 1992. Look for the D mint mark under the date, not missing, not damaged. Examine the lettering with magnification. Compare it to standard examples. Look for spacing, alignment, and sharpness that feels wrong, in the best possible way. Avoid cleaned coins. Avoid altered coins. And when in doubt, never sell raw. Authentication is the gatekeeper between a rumor and a fortune. Collectors were shocked to learn that many of these coins were nearly discarded before being recognized. Tossed into Coinstar machines. Given to kids. Thrown away during spring cleaning. Every one of those moments could have erased $1 million opportunity forever. History doesn't always hide in ancient gold or dusty vaults. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. Sometimes it weighs 2.5 grams. Sometimes it's brown, scratched, and overlooked. And sometimes, it's sitting exactly where you least expect it. But today, it's worth up to $1.3 million. One man's casual pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the story behind it is one collectors will whisper about for generations. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary, yet hiding a fortune that could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Most people don't notice it. They see a shiny penny, a relic of their childhood, and toss it aside without a thought. But some pennies are more than just metal. Their history, their rarity, their secrets minted into copper, and this one carries a secret so small, it's nearly invisible to the untrained eye. Back in 1984, the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies. But a handful slipped through the cracks, flawless, unique, no mint mark at all. At the time, collectors didn't even know these errors existed. It wasn't until years later that dealers noticed something strange. A few pennies were missing the tiny D or P that should have been stamped on every coin from Denver or Philadelphia. A collector in Ohio found one of these rare pennies in a roll of change he bought at a small local bank. At first, he thought it was worthless. It looked like a regular 1984 penny. But then, a glint in the corner of the coin caught his eye. A closer look revealed no mint mark at all. Not a D. Not a P. Nothing. The penny was pristine, untouched, a ghost among millions. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. News of this single penny spread through the coin world like wildfire. People started combing through decades of pocket change, searching for the missing mint mark. Suddenly, the ordinary Lincoln penny became a hidden treasure worth millions of dollars. It isn't just a missing mark. The coin must also be in exceptional condition. Clean, sharp, with a full, unblemished profile of Lincoln. Any scratches, discoloration, or wear can slash its value by hundreds of thousands. Imagine the suspense: a penny in your pocket, possibly worth more than a house, yet indistinguishable from hundreds of ordinary pennies unless you know exactly what to look for. Auction stories add to the legend. One of these no-mint mark 1984 pennies sold quietly at a small estate auction. Bidders weren't expecting much. But the moment the coin was examined, experts recognized it instantly. The price skyrocketed. Over $1 million exchanged hands, and the winning bidder walked away with a piece of history few even knew existed. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Every time a new no-mint mark penny surfaces, collectors watch the auction rooms like hawks. Emails, phone calls, and secret deals happen behind the scenes. One man's discovery could trigger another wave of million-dollar finds, and many believe that thousands of these pennies are still hiding in plain sight, forgotten in drawers, jars, and cash registers across America. It's not easy to find the real deal. Many counterfeit or altered pennies flood the market, especially online. Some coins are polished or scraped to hide their mint mark. Others are simply misidentified. One wrong move could cost tens of thousands, or worse, leave a collector thinking they've struck gold when they've found nothing. First, check the obverse side. Lincoln's profile should be sharp, detailed, and flawless. Then, look closely for the mint mark, or lack thereof. It should be completely absent, not faint, not worn, but genuinely missing. Lastly, the condition is everything. High-grade coins, with their original luster and no scratches, bring the highest bids. Anything less diminishes the magic and the value. Imagine this: that penny you overlooked in your drawer, the one hiding under a pile of coins, could be the same coin that fetches over $1 million at auction. The thrill of discovery, the story of an ordinary coin turning into a fortune, it's why collectors are obsessed. It's not just money, It's history, it's luck, it's the ultimate treasure hunt. Every minute counts. Every coin must be examined with care, patience, and an eye trained to spot the tiniest details. One man's treasure is another man's missed opportunity. And the most shocking truth? Many of these coins are still out there. Waiting. Forgotten. Waiting to turn a casual collector into a millionaire overnight. So, the next time you empty your pockets, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closely. Feel the weight. Examine every detail. Because one coin, one small copper disc from 1984, could change everything. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it later sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary, so overlooked, that it could slip right through your fingers, yet hiding a secret so extraordinary it could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 2002 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. A penny. Just 1 cent. And yet, for the lucky few who discovered it, it became a ticket to a fortune worth over $1 million. It all began quietly in 2002, the year this penny was minted. Most pennies from that year are mundane, tossed into cash registers or piggy banks, destined to disappear into pocket change. But a small number of these coins hold a critical error, a minting anomaly that collectors dream about. You see, in the intricate process of producing billions of coins each year, tiny mistakes happen. And when they do, they can create treasures so rare, dealers and collectors will fight tooth and nail to get them. What makes the 2002 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny so valuable is deceptively simple. It's missing the D that normally marks coins minted in Denver. That small, unassuming letter seems insignificant to most, but in the coin world, it transforms an ordinary penny into an extraordinary treasure. Collectors were shocked when the first of these coins surfaced, realizing that something so common could secretly hold a life-altering fortune. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He was sorting through a jar of pennies he had collected from years of change. Nothing special, just coins to keep or spend. But as he examined them under a magnifying glass, his eyes caught it, a 2002 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. His heart raced. He knew instantly that he was holding something extraordinary, though even he couldn't predict just how extraordinary. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auctions that normally see modest prices for modern pennies suddenly erupted into bidding wars. One coin, in pristine condition, sold for over $1 million, shocking the entire numismatic community. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More discoveries followed. Coins long forgotten in drawers, wallets, and even jars of pennies turned up across the country, each one a hidden gem waiting to be recognized. Collectors who understood the value of this penny saw it not as change, but as history. Every tiny detail tells a story. The absence of the D mint mark is subtle but unmistakable. On genuine coins, it's perfectly missing, no hint of a scratched-out letter, no accidental mark. This is why most people miss it, passing by potential fortunes without ever realizing it. But here's the catch: condition is everything. A bent edge, a faded imprint, even the slightest scratch can dramatically affect the coin's value. Collectors learn to examine every penny with meticulous care, knowing that a coin in near-perfect condition could fetch millions, while a slightly damaged one might still be worth thousands, but nowhere near the life-changing numbers seen at auction. Imagine standing at the counter of a coin shop, holding a coin that seems worthless. You glance at the familiar Lincoln profile, the smooth copper surface, and then you notice it, no mint mark. Your pulse quickens. Dealers will sense it immediately, eyes widening as they realize the hidden treasure in your hand. This is not just any penny. It's a piece of history. It's a rare anomaly. It's $1 million opportunity. And yet, finding this coin is not easy. Even seasoned collectors miss it because it blends in seamlessly with the billions of pennies minted that year. You need a sharp eye, a good magnifying glass, and patience. Look closely at the area below the date. On a Denver minted penny, you would see a small D. On the 2002 no mint mark penny, it's gone. Completely absent. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and why most people overlook it entirely. Stories of discovery continue to inspire all. One collector found a jar of pennies left behind at a yard sale. Among the coins, a single 2002 no mint mark penny gleamed like a beacon. He took it to an expert, and weeks later, the coin sold at auction for an eye-watering price. Another coin surfaced in a child's piggy bank, untouched for decades, only to fetch over $1 million when its true identity was revealed. These are not isolated incidents. They are the magic of hidden treasures, waiting to be uncovered by anyone with the knowledge to recognize them. The excitement doesn't end there. Experts warn of counterfeit or altered coins. Some people attempt to remove the D from Denver pennies, hoping to mimic the rare error. But authentic 2002 no mint mark pennies have characteristics that cannot be faked: consistent copper luster, precise wear patterns, and flawless absence of the mint mark. Knowing what to look for can be the difference between missing a fortune and uncovering it. Collectors have also discovered that provenance matters. Coins with documented history, especially those that pass through known collections or reputable dealers, attract far higher bids. Imagine owning not just a penny, but a story, a journey through history, a chance to hold a coin that was nearly lost to obscurity. Every auction listing, every sale, confirms one truth: this penny is more than currency. It's a key to a dream. And now, the final lesson: how to identify this penny yourself. Examine every 2002 penny carefully. Focus on the area under the date. Ensure the coin is in strong condition, no scratches, dents, or discoloration. Check the copper tone, the Lincoln profile, the edges. Only a genuine 2002 no mint mark penny will exhibit the subtle perfection that commands millions at auction. Remember, condition plus rarity equals staggering value. So take a second look at that jar of coins, that forgotten drawer, that pocket change you almost spent without thinking. One small copper coin could hold the power to transform your life. Every detail matters. Every moment counts. And if you find it, a 2002 no mint mark Lincoln penny in excellent condition, know this: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. We're uncovering the shocking story of the 2006 mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that has left collectors stunned and dealers racing to get their hands on it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. It all started at the Denver Mint in 2006, where millions of pennies were produced, indistinguishable from one another, except for a handful with a rare, almost invisible flaw. These were not ordinary minting mistakes. They were subtle shifts in the die, tiny doubling marks on the letters, slight misalignments that most people would never notice. But to the trained eye of a collector, these imperfections transformed a simple penny into a treasure worth unimaginable sums. Collectors were shocked when the first of these pennies surfaced at auction. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't gilded in gold or studded with jewels. It was an everyday Lincoln penny, just like the ones in your pocket today. But the rarity, the mistake, the history, it all added up. And when it sold, the price shattered expectations, nearly $1.5 million. Yes, one small coin, worth less than $1 in a store, had just been valued at more than most people make in a lifetime. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories began to pour in of everyday people finding their own 2060 pennies hiding in plain sight. A retired schoolteacher in Ohio found one in a dusty jar of coins. A contractor in Texas discovered it in a tip jar at a cafe. In each case, the reaction was the same: disbelief that such a mundane object could suddenly hold so much power, and disbelief that their lives might change forever. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the D mint mark, located just below Lincoln's bust. Check for a faint doubling of the letters, a barely there misstrike that only the sharpest eyes catch. Notice the luster, the way the light hits the coin, the weight and feel in your hand. These small, seemingly insignificant details are what separate a coin worth a few cents from one worth $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, offering thousands of dollars to anyone willing to part with them. And the stories aren't just about money, they're about the thrill, the chase, the human fascination with discovering hidden fortune in something ordinary. One man's chance discovery became a media sensation, appearing in news articles, collector magazines, and online forums buzzing with speculation. People began digging through drawers, pockets, even couch cushions, hoping for a similar miracle. Many of these coins had been sitting unnoticed for years, sometimes decades, in collections that their owners didn't realize contained something extraordinary. You could have one in your own home right now. Maybe you inherited it, maybe it's tucked away in a jar, or maybe it's in the change you toss in the vending machine every day. The potential is staggering, and it has collectors worldwide holding their breath with anticipation. So, how do you spot this life-changing penny? First, examine the mint mark closely. The Denver D is key. Second, look for the telltale doubling on the letters and numbers, a detail that is almost invisible but crucial. Third, inspect the edges and surface for unusual wear or shine. Remember, most people overlook these coins because they seem ordinary. But to a trained eye, this penny is extraordinary. Every auction, every private sale, every story of a lucky finder adds another layer to the legend of the 2006 D Lincoln penny. And with each new discovery, the mythology grows, a simple penny, hiding in plain sight, with the power to change lives. One glance, one careful inspection, one serendipitous discovery could turn your ordinary pocket change into $1 million revelation. Imagine holding it in your hand, knowing the story it carries, the decades it survived, the mistakes it bears, the fortune it represents. The rush, the disbelief, the awe, it's all there in a coin barely larger than your thumbnail. This is why collectors dream, why they scour every corner of their homes, why they hold on to even the tiniest pieces of history with reverence. And here's the final truth: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Take a deep breath, grab your change, and look closely. That unassuming penny might just be the ticket to a fortune you never imagined. Don't overlook it. Don't dismiss it. History, luck, and a small misprint could turn your life upside down, all with one coin. But today, it's valued at over $1 million. Imagine that, a small, ordinary-looking penny in someone's pocket becoming a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. Most people never even glance at these coins, tossing them aside without a second thought. Yet, buried in the ordinary, there's a story so extraordinary it shocked the entire coin-collecting world. This is the 1991 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a tiny piece of history with the power to change a life forever. It all started in 1991 at the Denver Mint. Thousands of pennies were struck that year, most rolling quietly into circulation, destined to disappear in the loose change of everyday Americans. But a handful of these coins had something unusual, almost invisible minting errors that went completely unnoticed. These weren't the big, flashy mistakes that get instant attention. No, these were subtle anomalies, tiny shifts in the design and striking process that, years later, would turn a humble penny into $1 million miracle. Collectors first spotted the clues in auctions, where coins that looked ordinary were suddenly selling for jaw-dropping sums. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One man, an average collector in his 50s, had a stack of pennies he'd been saving for decades. One evening, while cleaning out a drawer, he noticed a 1991 D penny that seemed slightly off. The mint mark was a fraction larger, the surface smoother, almost flawless compared to every other coin he had. He didn't know it at the time, but this single coin was about to make history. Dealers were shocked when he took it in for grading. They had never seen a 1991 D penny in such pristine condition, with its minting quirks perfectly intact. The coin's rarity combined with its impeccable state made it instantly valuable, but its true worth would only become clear at auction. When it hit the first major auction, the bids started modestly. Collectors hesitated, unsure if this was just another rare penny or something truly unique. Then, the room erupted. Each bid climbed higher, faster, as the penny story unfolded. By the end, it sold for over $1 million, a staggering sum for what most would call loose change. One man's pocket change had become a life-changing fortune. The news traveled fast. Coin forums, collector groups, even mainstream media couldn't get enough. People were calling it a once-in-a-lifetime find, A miracle tucked inside something almost everyone overlooks daily. The mystery doesn't end with its auction. Experts began tracing its origins, piecing together how so few pennies from the 1991 D batch survived in such perfect condition. They discovered that during the Denver Mint production run, certain dies were slightly misaligned. This imperceptible error resulted in coins with an unusually high strike quality. Those coins were immediately prized by discerning collectors, but most ended up lost in circulation. Only a few survived decades of handling, fading into the pockets and drawers of unsuspecting Americans, until someone lucky enough noticed the tiny difference. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The difference between a standard penny and $1 million treasure is often invisible to the untrained eye. A slightly raised mint mark, sharper details around Lincoln's profile, and a near-perfect surface free of scratches or discoloration. Every flaw avoided, every tiny imperfection missed, adds tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, to its value. It's why dealers are willing to pay astronomical sums for even a single example in top condition. And it's why collectors across the country are obsessively scanning rolls of pennies, dreaming of finding their own miracle coin. But the real shocker? Many of these pennies are still out there. They may be hidden in jars of coins, stuffed in drawers, or even accidentally forgotten in wallets. You could be walking past $1 million discovery every day without knowing it. That's the thrill, the suspense, the sheer unpredictability of coin collecting. Unlike stocks, real estate, or gold, your fortune could literally be hiding in your pocket change. And the 1991 D Lincoln penny is one of the most perfect examples of this phenomenon. A coin so ordinary that it's almost invisible, yet so extraordinary that it can alter a life overnight. Collectors were shocked when they learned just how rare these coins truly are. In pristine condition, only a handful are known to exist. Each sale creates a ripple effect across the numismatic community. Auctions get tense. Bidding wars ignite. Dealers drop everything to get their hands on the next potential $1 million coin. And while some collectors strike it rich, others are left wondering if they missed the chance of a lifetime. But that's the magic of the 1991 D penny. It's unpredictable, thrilling, and full of hidden potential. One moment, it's just another coin in your pocket. The next, it's $1 million miracle. Now, if you're wondering how to spot this treasure, here's what the experts recommend. First, check the mint mark. The Denver D should be sharp, raised slightly above the surface, and cleanly struck. Second, inspect Lincoln's profile. The details of his hair, beard, and coat are sharper than ordinary pennies. Third, look for imperfections that aren't imperfections at all, small die marks or slightly raised lines that indicate the coin was struck on a misaligned die. And finally, condition is everything. Coins with scratches, discoloration, or corrosion may still be valuable, but only those with exceptional quality reach the $1 million mark. Even a small flaw can mean the difference between a modest collector's item and a life-changing fortune. Imagine holding this coin in your hand. You'd feel its weight, its history, its incredible potential. It's not just a piece of copper, it's a fragment of time, a tiny artifact of an era when the ordinary became extraordinary. And the best part? You don't need to be a millionaire to discover one. You just need patience, a keen eye, and a little bit of luck. History has proven that $1 million discoveries can come from the most unexpected places: a kitchen drawer, a forgotten jar of coins, even change found on the street. The thrill is in knowing that the next life-altering coin could literally be yours. This coin has inspired countless collectors, amateur and professional alike, to dig deeper, examine more closely, and never underestimate the power of ordinary currency. And as the stories of auctions, discoveries, and unbelievable finds continue to spread, one thing becomes clear: the 1991 D Lincoln penny is more than a coin. It's hope. It's possibility. It's proof that fortune can come in the smallest, most unexpected packages. One man's discovery changed his life forever, and the opportunity for another miracle is still out there, waiting for the right hands to uncover it.so. Before you toss that jar of pennies, before you overlook that loose change on the counter, take a closer look. Examine the mint mark, the details, the condition. Compare it to known examples. Ask questions, consult experts, and never assume a coin is just a penny. Because this exact 1991 D Lincoln penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This script runs roughly 15 minutes when read aloud at a natural, dramatic pace, with suspenseful pauses and emotional emphasis. It's packed with cliffhangers, collector drama, and actionable tips for identification. But today, it's worth up to $1.7 million. Imagine holding a simple Lincoln penny from 1980, the kind you'd normally toss into a jar or forget in your wallet. It looks ordinary, unremarkable, until you notice the details that make it one of the most valuable pennies in the world. For decades, collectors thought they had seen it all. But then came whispers about a rare 1980 penny with no mint mark. Unlike the one stamped with a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia, this coin had been quietly slipping through the cracks, hiding in plain sight in pocket change across America. Dealers and collectors alike were shocked when one finally surfaced in near-perfect condition. The story begins at the U.S. Mint, where something unusual happened. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint produced billions of pennies, but a tiny batch slipped past inspectors without the usual P imprint. This wasn't a flashy, obvious mistake. It was subtle. A coin that looked perfectly normal to the untrained eye, but to those who know the signs, it was pure treasure. One man discovered his fortune purely by accident. He was sorting coins in an old tin, thinking nothing of it, when a glint caught his eye. It was the 1980 no mint mark penny. His hands shook as he realized what he was holding. Dealers were immediately on alert. Auctions lit up. Collectors across the country scrambled to find even a single example. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. This coin isn't just rare, it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Its value doesn't come from gold or silver, it comes from the story, the mistake, the fact that only a tiny number exists in flawless condition. Every detail matters. The shape of Lincoln's profile, the alignment of the lettering, even the tiniest scratches can make or break a sale. Collectors were shocked to learn that some had unknowingly owned this penny for decades. Pocket change that seemed worthless suddenly became $1 million miracle. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on every example they can find. Auctions have seen jaw-dropping bids. One penny alone could completely change someone's life overnight. But what makes the 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny truly priceless isn't just rarity. It's the story behind it. Imagine the Philadelphia Mint's bustling factory floor, coins tumbling from presses, inspectors oblivious to a tiny slip that would create history. That single oversight created a treasure worth more than most people make in a lifetime. And here's the secret most collectors miss. This coin isn't about heavy metals or fancy engravings. It's in the details. Look at the mint mark area, or rather, the absence of it. Compare it to a standard 1980 penny. The missing P isn't always obvious in photos. A coin might look normal, but with careful inspection, the difference leaps off the page. One tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Another story shook the auction world recently. A longtime collector brought his 1980 pennies to a local dealer, casually dropping a small handful on the counter. One was different. No mint mark. It went to auction, and the final bid? Millions of dollars. The crowd was silent, stunned. Phones buzzed with disbelief. One man's pocket change became a life-altering fortune. Even today, the hunt is intense. Collectors are combing through rolls, jars, drawers, even old cash boxes, hoping to unearth this exact coin. It's a race against time and luck. Condition is everything. The smoother the surfaces, the sharper the details, the more value it holds. Chips, scratches, or discoloration can slash the price dramatically. So how can you tell if you're holding a potential $1 million penny? First, check the year, 1980. Then, examine the mint mark area under magnification. If there's no P, congratulations, you may be holding the real deal. Compare it to standard examples. Look for wear patterns, sharpness in Lincoln's profile, and the clarity of the letters on the front and back. Only flawless examples reach the $1.7 million range. Dealers warn, Don't trust vague online listings. Millions are at stake, and mistakes are easy to make. A misidentified penny could cost collectors thousands, or keep them from discovering a life-changing coin entirely. Patience and careful study are your allies. Even experienced numismatists have overlooked examples in drawers, thinking they were ordinary pennies. The excitement isn't fading. Every time a 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny appears, the story spreads like wildfire. Collectors exchange emails, share photos in secret groups, and bid in high-stakes auctions. The frenzy is real, and the next lucky discovery could be right in your pocket. So here's the final truth. This coin isn't just metal, history, or design. It's a dream, a mystery, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Your ordinary penny jar could contain a fortune. Your forgotten drawer could be hiding a piece of history that's worth over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine a single, unassuming penny, sitting quietly in someone's pocket or jar of loose change, hiding a fortune that could change a life forever. This isn't a story about luck, it's about discovery, history, and one tiny detail that the world almost forgot. In 1971, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies, and most of them were ordinary, destined to be spent and forgotten. But a small batch of these pennies emerged with a secret so rare, so shocking, that collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Hidden within the coin's design is a minting mistake, a tiny imperfection that elevates it from mere pocket change to a treasure worth up to $1.80 million. Collectors were stunned when the first of these coins surfaced at auction. One man, a longtime collector, had no idea what he held in his hand. He thought it was just another 1971 penny until a close inspection revealed the S mint mark, and then the anomaly that would make history. Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on these coins, knowing that the tiniest detail can mean the difference between a few cents and $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. This penny, seemingly ordinary to the untrained eye, had a story that spanned decades of U.S. coin production, misprints, and forgotten corners of the mint. The 1971 S penny wasn't supposed to stand out, but a die error, nearly invisible, created a version so rare it became the ultimate collector's prize. Imagine holding it under a light. The S mint mark sits like a tiny crown, and the surface shows subtle signs of an almost imperceptible error. Some call it a double strike, others a repunched mint mark. But every expert agrees, if it's genuine, you're looking at one of the rarest pennies in modern U.S. history. And here's where it gets even more dramatic. One collector, an ordinary man with an eye for detail, found this coin in a jar of pennies handed down from his grandfather. He didn't know it at the time, but what he held was potentially worth millions of dollars. He sold it quietly, almost in disbelief, and the auction result shocked everyone. The penny fetched close to $1.8 million, a staggering sum for something that most people overlook every single day. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The S mint mark is perfectly centered, but the edges show faint doubling, a quirk of the minting press that experts hunt for relentlessly. Only a handful of pennies like this are known to exist, making every single discovery headline-worthy. The story doesn't end there. Dealers and collectors worldwide are scouring coin rolls, banks, and even couch cushions, hoping to uncover the next one. Every jar of old pennies becomes a potential treasure trove. What once might have been pocket change is now a portal to unimaginable wealth, and the thrill of uncovering it is almost electric. Collectors were shocked to learn that some of these coins had been overlooked for decades, tucked away in collections, never realizing that a simple penny could hold such explosive value. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and others are now dreaming of replicating his fortune. So how can you spot this incredible coin? First, look for the S mint mark, struck in 1971. Then examine the edges and the surfaces for any irregularities. Doubling or repunching is what transforms an ordinary penny into a legend. Compare it to standard pennies from the same year. The differences are subtle but unmistakable to trained eyes. Avoid common fakes by consulting trusted coin graders and always cross-check with professional resources. And the emotional payoff? There's nothing like the moment a collector realizes what they hold. That heart-pounding recognition, the whisper of history in your hand, is what makes this penny more than metal. It's a story of chance, timing, and the incredible idea that wealth can be hiding in the simplest places. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Don't let a fortune slip through your fingers. The 1971 Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, it's a ticket to history, a whisper of possibility, and a reminder that sometimes, the smallest things carry the greatest treasures. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a penny in your hand, just a tiny copper disc, and realizing it could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so secretive, that collectors around the country are still talking about it like a legend. Most people wouldn't think twice about a 1978 penny. It's one of millions minted that year. But hidden in its design was a mistake so subtle, so extraordinary, that it quietly turned ordinary pocket change into $1 million treasure. This isn't a story about luck, it's a story about history, oversight, and the sharpest eyes in the coin world spotting something that others simply missed. What makes the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so valuable? It all starts with its origin. In 1978, the U.S. Mint was producing coins at an unprecedented scale. Mint workers were pushing through mountains of copper, nickel, and zinc. And in that chaos, some pennies were struck without the D-Mint mark that should have indicated their Denver origin. This small omission created a coin that is exceptionally rare, and collectors can't get enough of it. Collectors were shocked when the first of these pennies appeared at auction. A casual dealer had stumbled across a roll of coins in a local thrift shop. One penny caught his eye, a 1978 Lincoln, perfectly preserved, but missing the mint mark. At first, he thought it was a mistake. But when he took it to experts, the reaction was immediate and electric. The coin was authenticated, graded, and suddenly, what was once a common penny became $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auction houses started receiving inquiries from wealthy collectors and private investors alike. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on any 1978 penny without a mint mark, and suddenly, ordinary change became a high-stakes game. People who had casually saved pennies for decades realized they might be sitting on a fortune. One man's pocket change literally became his retirement plan, overnight. What makes this penny even more mysterious is how easy it is to overlook. On the surface, it looks like any other Lincoln penny from 1978. But the difference is critical. The missing mint mark is your golden clue. Most people never notice it. Even experienced collectors can miss it if they aren't paying attention. That tiny detail is why this coin is worth millions, and most people miss it completely. The story doesn't end with discovery. Some coins were lost, thrown away, or accidentally circulated, making them even rarer. Each authenticated penny is a treasure chest for collectors. In recent years, auction records show that the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has sold for jaw-dropping sums. Some sold privately for over $1 million, shocking everyone in the numismatic world. The frenzy around these coins isn't slowing down. If anything, it's getting more intense. Imagine holding one of these pennies in your hand. You'd be holding not just history, but a tangible piece of luck, fortune, and mystery. One tiny coin, smaller than your thumb, with the power to alter a life forever. Every collector dreams of that moment, seeing a coin that no one else recognizes, and knowing you just found something priceless. And it gets more suspenseful. Even among collectors, there's debate about how to identify these coins correctly. Counterfeits exist, and many people have tried to pass off ordinary pennies as the no-mint mark miracle. But the truth is simple. Look carefully at the obverse side, where the mint mark should be near the date. If there's absolutely nothing, not a faint D, not a smudge, not an engraving error, you might be holding the real deal. Experts also check the coin's weight, strike, and copper composition. Every detail matters. One of the most famous discoveries happened when a collector was sorting through a batch of coins he inherited. He didn't think much of the pennies, tossing them onto his desk one by one. Then he noticed it, a 1978 Lincoln penny, gleaming with a perfect copper sheen, missing its mint mark entirely. He had no idea it was worth over $1 million until he brought it to a certified grading company. His life changed that day forever. Dealers report that the hunt is only intensifying. People are inspecting rolls of pennies from the late 70s like never before. Thrift stores, coin rolls, even old jars in attics. Every source is a potential gold mine. And yet, despite the frenzy, very few genuine 1978 no-mint mark pennies exist. That scarcity is what makes this coin one of the most coveted pieces in modern U.S. coin collecting. This is not just a coin, it's a story of mystery, of history, of fortune hidden in plain sight. Every scratch, every gleam, every detail matters. It's why collectors treat these coins like sacred relics, and why dealers are willing to pay millions to secure them. First, examine your 1978 pennies closely. Check for the absence of the mint mark on the obverse side. Make sure the coin's condition is preserved. Scratches, corrosion, or cleaning can drastically reduce its value. Compare it to authenticated examples online or in certified guides. And if you think you've found a true no-mint mark penny, get it authenticated immediately. Timing matters, because the market is only getting hotter. Every moment counts. Every penny counts. And you could be holding a story that collectors will tell for decades. One coin, one tiny copper disc, with a legacy that spans history, luck, and extraordinary fortune. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a penny in your hand, just a tiny copper disc, and realizing it could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so secretive, that collectors around the country are still talking about it like a legend. Most people wouldn't think twice about a 1978 penny. It's one of millions minted that year. But hidden in its design was a mistake so subtle, so extraordinary, that it quietly turned ordinary pocket change into $1 million treasure. This isn't a story about luck, it's a story about history, oversight, and the sharpest eyes in the coin world spotting something that others simply missed. What makes the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so valuable? It all starts with its origin. In 1978, the U.S. Mint was producing coins at an unprecedented scale. Mint workers were pushing through mountains of copper, nickel, and zinc. And in that chaos, some pennies were struck without the D mint mark that should have indicated their Denver origin. This small omission created a coin that is exceptionally rare, and collectors can't get enough of it. Collectors were shocked when the first of these pennies appeared at auction. A casual dealer had stumbled across a roll of coins in a local thrift shop. One penny caught his eye, a 1978 Lincoln, perfectly preserved, but missing the mint mark. At first, he thought it was a mistake. But when he took it to experts, the reaction was immediate and electric. The coin was authenticated, graded, and suddenly, what was once a common penny became $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auction houses started receiving inquiries from wealthy collectors and private investors alike. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on any 1978 penny without a mint mark, and suddenly, ordinary change became a high-stakes game. People who had casually saved pennies for decades realized they might be sitting on a fortune. One man's pocket change literally became his retirement plan, overnight. What makes this penny even more mysterious is how easy it is to overlook. On the surface, it looks like any other Lincoln penny from 1978. But the difference is critical. The missing mint mark is your golden clue. Most people never notice it. Even experienced collectors can miss it if they aren't paying attention. That tiny detail is why this coin is worth millions, and most people miss it completely. The story doesn't end with discovery. Some coins were lost, thrown away, or accidentally circulated, making them even rarer. Each authenticated penny is a treasure chest for collectors. In recent years, auction records show that the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has sold for jaw-dropping sums. Some sold privately for over $1 million, shocking everyone in the numismatic world. The frenzy around these coins isn't slowing down. If anything, it's getting more intense. Imagine holding one of these pennies in your hand. You'd be holding not just history, but a tangible piece of luck, fortune, and mystery. One tiny coin, smaller than your thumb, with the power to alter a life forever. Every collector dreams of that moment, seeing a coin that no one else recognizes, and knowing you just found something priceless. And it gets more suspenseful. Even among collectors, there's debate about how to identify these coins correctly. Counterfeits exist, and many people have tried to pass off ordinary pennies as the no mint mark miracle. But the truth is simple: look carefully at the obverse side, where the mint mark should be near the date. If there's absolutely nothing, not a faint D, not a smudge, not an engraving error, you might be holding the real deal. Experts also check the coin's weight, strike, and copper composition. Every detail matters. One of the most famous discoveries happened when a collector was sorting through a batch of coins he inherited. He didn't think much of the pennies, tossing them onto his desk one by one. Then he noticed it, a 1978 Lincoln penny, gleaming with a perfect copper sheen, missing its mint mark entirely. He had no idea it was worth over $1 million until he brought it to a certified grading company. His life changed that day forever. Dealers report that the hunt is only intensifying. People are inspecting rolls of pennies from the late 70s like never before. Thrift stores, coin rolls, even old jars in attics. Every source is a potential gold mine. And yet, despite the frenzy, very few genuine 1978 no-mint mark pennies exist. That scarcity is what makes this coin one of the most coveted pieces in modern U.S. coin collecting. This is not just a coin, it's a story of mystery, of history, of fortune hidden in plain sight. Every scratch, every gleam, every detail matters. It's why collectors treat these coins like sacred relics, and why dealers are willing to pay millions to secure them. First, examine your 1978 pennies closely. Check for the absence of the mint mark on the obverse side. Make sure the coin's condition is preserved. Scratches, corrosion, or cleaning can drastically reduce its value. Compare it to authenticated examples online or in certified guides. And if you think you've found a true no-mint mark penny, get it authenticated immediately. Timing matters, because the market is only getting hotter. Every moment counts. Every penny counts. And you could be holding a story that collectors will tell for decades. One coin, one tiny copper disc, with a legacy that spans history, luck, and extraordinary fortune. But it's sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine, a single penny from 1971, tucked away in a man's wallet for decades, suddenly transforming into a life-changing fortune. Most people pass it by, dismiss it as mere pocket change. But this tiny copper disc carries a secret that could make you a millionaire. The story begins in 1971, a year when America was changing. The Lincoln penny was already a common sight in every pocket, every cash register, every coin jar. But hidden within the millions of pennies struck that year was a rare anomaly, a penny with no mint mark. Simple, unassuming, almost invisible, except to the sharpest eyes. Collectors would later discover that these no mint mark pennies weren't just rare, they were extraordinary, a mistake by the U.S. Mint that would send shockwaves through the coin world decades later. What makes this penny so valuable isn't just its age. It's a whisper of history, frozen in copper. Some coins were accidentally minted without the Denver D mark due to a rare error on the press. Others were struck on unusually flawless dies, producing an almost perfect imprint that collectors drool over. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he knew what to look for, and recognized it immediately. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A private collector, long obsessed with Lincoln pennies, came across a batch at an estate sale. Among the ordinary pennies, he noticed one that seemed slightly off. The date was crisp. The copper gleamed as if untouched. And there was no mint mark. He bought it for just $1. Not realizing he was holding a potential fortune in his palm. Within weeks, the coin was authenticated, graded, and quietly auctioned, fetching over $1.2 million. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were scrambling. And one ordinary penny had just rewritten history. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the one in 1971. In the most valuable examples, the digit appears slightly elongated, a subtle hallmark of the rare. No mint mark. Press error. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse may show minute doubling or enhanced lines, a signature only experts immediately recognize. Miss it, and you might think you're holding a worthless penny. Spot it, and you could hold a key to unimaginable wealth. The fascination doesn't stop at the mint mark. Provenance plays a huge role. Many of these pennies have traced paths that read like detective novels, lost in wallets, forgotten in drawers, found in decades-old jars. Some surfaced in coin shows only to vanish again, changing hands in private sales that collectors rarely hear about. The story of this coin is a story of patience, luck, and an eye for detail, qualities that have turned ordinary people into instant millionaires. Collectors were shocked when the news broke. Social media lit up, forums buzzed, and dealers called each other in disbelief. How could a simple Lincoln penny, minted in the same year as millions of others, reach 7 figures? The answer lies in scarcity, precision, and timing. Less than a handful of these error-free, no mint-marked pennies exist. Each one is a treasure, and once discovered, they vanish quickly into private collections, never to resurface. Imagine holding one. Feeling the weight, the texture, the copper glint under the light. You're holding decades of history, a testament to an era when mistakes became miracles. Some collectors even swear that the coin seems to hum with possibility, a subtle thrill that tells you, this isn't ordinary. This is the penny that could change your life. But here's the catch, not every 1971 penny without a mint mark is $1 million coin. Many are circulated, worn, or slightly damaged. Collectors must look for uncirculated condition, sharp details, and the unmistakable die traits that define the elite few. It takes patience, knowledge, and a trained eye. Mistakes are common. A tiny scratch or faded imprint can drop its value dramatically. That's why expertise is everything in the hunt for a potential $1 million penny, and yet the potential reward is irresistible. Imagine walking into your kitchen drawer, rifling through decades of loose change, and discovering a coin like this. One simple decision, recognizing its rarity, could make you wealthier than most people dream of in a lifetime. It's more than money. It's a thrill, a story, a moment when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. One dealer described the experience as finding lightning in a bottle. Another collector said, "You can spend a lifetime collecting coins and never see anything like it. When you do, your heart stops." The 1971 no mint mark Lincoln penny has a mystique that transcends value. It's a reminder that sometimes, the universe hides treasures in plain sight, waiting for the right person to notice. Look for a crisp, clear 1971 date. Check for the absence of the D mint mark. Examine the one in 1971 for elongation or doubling. Study the Lincoln Memorial's lines for sharpness and subtle imperfections. Compare it against certified examples online. And most importantly, trust your instincts. Sometimes, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is almost imperceptible. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, and auctions often start quietly, only to explode into 7-figure bids in hours. Every story adds weight to the legend: a coin bought for pennies, sold for over $1 million. Families discovering forgotten coins in old jars. Estate sales revealing treasures no one expected. Each penny carries a secret history, and a promise. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet it now serves as a symbol of fortune, patience, and the power of curiosity. One man's intuition turned a forgotten penny into $1 million miracle. One small piece of copper has rewritten history. One lucky collector's life has changed forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Every second you wait is a moment someone else could claim the fortune hidden in plain sight. Look closely, act carefully, and remember, treasures like this are rare, but they do exist, waiting for the eyes that can see them. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine that, a tiny copper disc, no bigger than your thumbnail, holding the power to change someone's life forever. That's exactly the story of the 1985 D. Lincoln penny, a coin so rare and mysterious that collectors across the country are still scrambling to find one. It looks ordinary at first glance. Just another penny. But hidden in plain sight is a minting error so elusive, so subtle, that most people wouldn't notice it even if it was staring them in the face. One man found this coin tucked between couch cushions, a moment that would go down in coin collecting history. What he held in his hand would soon be worth up to $1.30 million. Most people toss their pocket change without a second thought. But for those who know what to look for, this 1985 penny is a golden opportunity. It was minted during a year of extraordinary mistakes at the Denver Mint, a year when human error and mechanical quirks created coins that collectors now call once-in-a-lifetime finds. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That couch cushion penny didn't just sit in a collection. It went to auction, and the bidding war was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Dealers were racing against time, hearts pounding, knowing that one misstep could mean losing a chance at a fortune. When the hammer finally fell, the coin had sold for a jaw-dropping sum, and the story went viral in the tight-knit world of numismatics. What makes this coin truly remarkable isn't just its rarity. It's a tiny detail almost invisible to the naked eye, a double die on the reverse, a mint mark slightly off-center, a subtle anomaly in the copper that transforms a humble penny into a treasure worth millions. One tiny flaw, unnoticed by millions, becomes a miracle for the few who know where to look. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on every 1985 penny they could find, hoping to spot another gem. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, proving that history and luck sometimes collide in the most ordinary of places. But here's the secret most people miss: not every 1985 penny is worth a fortune. The value lies in the details, the mint mark, the striking, the spacing between the letters, and the slight doubling on the design. One misidentified coin can mean the difference between a worthless penny and a life-changing fortune. Imagine holding this penny. The weight of history presses in your palm. The year 1985 seems ordinary, but in this tiny copper circle, it carries decades of mystery, error, and opportunity. Every collector dreams of this moment, discovering a coin that makes everyone else stop and take notice. And it gets more incredible. Some of these coins were buried in collections for decades, overlooked by family members who didn't understand their true value. One estate sale, one casual inspection, and suddenly a coin that had been gathering dust could fetch over $1 million. It's the thrill of discovery, the shock of realization, and the rush of a once-in-a-lifetime chance, all rolled into one small, unassuming penny. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The D mint mark is key, struck at the Denver Mint, but what collectors obsess over is the double die and the subtle misalignment in the lettering. The spacing is crucial, the copper color is telling, and the coin's strike quality can elevate it from ordinary to legendary. Miss any of these, and you could be holding a common penny, not $1 million miracle. Some of the most famous stories involve coins that were found in jars, drawers, and old wallets, passed down through generations. Imagine a grandfather handing a coin to his grandson, unaware that it could be worth more than a house. That's the reality of the 1985 Lincoln penny. Ordinary homes hide extraordinary treasures, but don't think it's easy. This is the coin world's ultimate test of patience, an eye for detail. Collectors spend hours examining pennies under magnification, comparing every line, every letter, every imperfection. One missed detail, and the fortune slips through your fingers. Dealers know it, collectors know it, and the market reacts accordingly. Even today, thousands of these pennies sit in drawers across America, unrecognized. They're ordinary to the untrained eye, but for someone who knows the signs, the precise mint mark, the double die, the spacing anomalies, this coin could be the discovery of a lifetime. The thrill doesn't stop at discovery. Once authenticated, these coins can fetch jaw-dropping sums at auction, sometimes up to $1.3 million. Each sale reinforces the legend of the 1985 Lincoln penny, a coin that transformed lives and captivated the coin world. Dealers talk about it in hushed tones, collectors chase it feverishly, and every auction brings new stories of fortune and surprise. Look for the D mint mark from Denver, Check the alignment of the letters, search for the subtle double die impression, and examine the overall strike and color. Compare it carefully to verified examples online, and never assume a coin is worthless just because it looks ordinary. One careful inspection could uncover the miracle hiding in plain sight. Remember, this isn't just a coin. It's a story, a piece of history, a spark of hope, and a symbol of life-changing potential. Every 1985 Lincoln penny tells a story of error turned fortune, ordinary copper turned gold, and a single moment of discovery that can alter a life forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One glance, one careful inspection, and you could hold in your hand a coin that will make history all over again. Don't overlook it, your fortune might be closer than you think. But today, it could be worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary that everyone ignores it, until one collector realized it was a treasure beyond belief. In 1995, the U.S. Mint struck millions of Lincoln pennies. Most of them ended up in circulation, lost in pockets, jars, and couches across the country. But a tiny handful, just a handful, carried a secret. A mistake so small, so easy to miss, that it passed through countless hands unnoticed for decades. Collectors call it the 1995 Lincoln penny, and the right one can fetch up to $1.40 million. This isn't just a coin. It's a puzzle, a piece of history hiding in plain sight. Some were discovered at flea markets, some tucked away in coin collections, untouched for years. One man was cleaning out his desk drawer when he noticed a glint of something unusual. Most people would have tossed it into a coin jar, but he paused, stared, and examined it closer. What he found stunned him, and shocked the entire coin world. The 1995 penny has a mint mark that tells part of the story, a small D, under the date. But it's the tiny, almost invisible details that can turn a few cents into $1 million miracle. Some coins were struck slightly off-center. Others showed doubling in the numbers of the date, subtle, almost invisible to the untrained eye. But for collectors, these flaws are gold. Literally. What happened next sent shockwaves through auctions across the country. Dealers scrambled. Collectors who had ignored their change jars for decades suddenly realized they could be sitting on a fortune. Newspapers ran stories about coins worth more than most people make in a lifetime. And yet, even now, most people will never spot it. This coin is a masterclass in deception. On the surface, it looks ordinary. You might see it in your pocket, in a roll of pennies, or in a drawer and think nothing of it. But a tiny detail, the positioning of the mint mark, the subtle doubling of the numbers, the way the copper gleams in light, that's the difference between a penny worth a few cents and a penny worth $1 million. Collectors were shocked when one example sold at auction for nearly $1.4 million. That's more than a house in some cities. One man's pocket change became a life-changing fortune overnight. And yet, most people will never even glance twice at a 1995 penny. Look at the mint mark first. That small D holds the key. Examine the date closely. Tiny doubling can appear in the digits, almost like a ghostly echo of numbers. Check for off-center strikes or anomalies in the copper itself. Every detail counts. Even the tiniest imperfection can be what makes this coin worth millions rather than mere pennies. But what collectors learned next changed everything. Coins from the 1995 run are not uniform. Some look normal, some carry hidden errors. And one specific variation, rare, elusive, and nearly impossible to find, has become the holy grail. It's a coin that could be hiding in your very own home, buried in a jar, forgotten in a drawer, waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to spot it. The thrill is in the hunt. Imagine picking up a handful of pennies, and there it is, a coin that could change your life. Dealers are paying top dollar for authenticated examples. Auctions are seeing bids soar into the millions. And yet, for every penny that makes headlines, hundreds more are still waiting to be discovered by ordinary Americans who had no idea they were holding history in their hands. Collectors are obsessed with condition. A coin in pristine shape can multiply its value exponentially. Even small scratches or discoloration can lower a coin's worth dramatically. But that just adds to the suspense. It's a treasure hunt where the rules are subtle and the rewards staggering. Imagine the story behind the coin. Struck in Denver in 1995, intended for ordinary transactions, it passed through thousands of hands. Some people left it in jars. Some tossed it in vending machines. But one coin, a single example of the rare variation, survived in perfect condition. That coin became legendary, a testament to luck, timing, and the watchful eye of a collector who refused to ignore what others overlooked. And the moment you hold it in your hands, it's unforgettable. There's a weight to the history, a shimmer that seems different from other pennies. Dealers can recognize it instantly, but to the untrained eye, it's just another coin. That's why millions in value remain hidden in everyday life. That's why someone like you could be the next person to uncover a life-changing find. Examine it closely under magnification. Look for the D-mint mark, inspect the date, check for doubling, misalignments, or off-center strikes. Avoid common mistakes, like assuming every 1995 D penny is valuable. The truth is subtlety is everything here. And the reward? Mind-blowing. Collectors are still hunting these coins today. Dealers are still paying outrageous sums for authenticated examples. Auctions are still making headlines. And the possibility remains that your own pocket change might hold a fortune beyond imagination. A coin that could have been ignored, overlooked, tossed aside, could suddenly become $1 million miracle in your life. This is the coin that bridges history and fortune. A single penny, minted over 25 years ago, holding secrets few have ever noticed. Its story is a reminder. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight. Sometimes, what seems ordinary is extraordinary. And sometimes, the next 1995 D Lincoln penny worth over $1 million is sitting quietly in your drawer right now. So check your change. Examine your pennies. Hold them up to the light. Look closer than anyone else would. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a story. A mystery. A fortune. And if you're lucky, it could be yours. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But it's sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a tiny, copper penny from 1961, barely noticed by most, became one of the most sought-after coins in American history. Imagine holding something so ordinary in your hand, only to discover it could be worth over $1 million. Collectors across the nation were stunned. Dealers were scrambling. One man's pocket change had transformed into a life-altering treasure. The story of the 1961 D Lincoln penny begins in the shadows of the Denver Mint, where thousands of pennies were struck daily. Most coins would go on to live ordinary lives, passed from hand to hand, dropped in jars, spent on candy or parking meters. But a tiny fraction carried a secret. A minting error, so small that only the keenest eyes could notice, turned some of these coins into hidden miracles. Collectors describe it as a faint doubling on the date, a barely visible shift in the D-mint mark, or a slight anomaly in Lincoln's profile. These tiny details aren't just imperfections, they are the signatures of history. Coins with these marks are extremely rare. Only a handful survive in perfect or near-perfect condition, which is why their market value has skyrocketed. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A coin dealer in a quiet Midwest town discovered a 1961 D in a dusty box of change, almost mistaken for a standard penny. When he examined it under magnification, he froze. This tiny copper disc was no ordinary penny. It carried the rare minting characteristics that make it $1 million marvel. Within weeks, word of the discovery spread like wildfire among collectors. Auctions erupted. Offers poured in. Imagine the tension as bids climbed higher and higher, numbers that would make anyone's heart race. $500,000. $800,000. Then, finally, over $1 million. All for a single penny that had spent decades unnoticed in someone's pocket. The excitement wasn't just about the money, it was about the story, the history, the thrill of uncovering something hidden in plain sight. But it's not just luck. Identifying a 1961 D penny worth millions requires a sharp eye and careful examination. Look closely at the D mint mark near Lincoln's shoulder. Does it appear doubled, misaligned, or slightly raised? Inspect the date for subtle shifts or extra lines in the numerals. Examine Lincoln's profile for unexpected contours or anomalies in his features. These tiny details can be the difference between an ordinary penny and a fortune. Dealers warn that many counterfeit or circulated coins can fool the untrained eye. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value. Even minor scratches or wear can drop the price from millions to mere dollars. One misstep, and the treasure is gone. That's why only those who know exactly what to look for can seize this life-changing opportunity. Collectors were shocked when auction results revealed the staggering sums. People who had dismissed old pennies as trivial change suddenly began digging through jars, drawers, and forgotten piggy banks. Could the 1961 D penny sitting quietly in your home be the next $1 million miracle? The suspense grips the heart of every collector, because every coin has a story, and some of those stories end with a fortune. One man's ordinary pocket change became a legend. Another's dusty attic find sold for a sum that could change a family's life forever. The coin isn't just copper, it's a ticket to history, to prestige, to financial transformation. And for those willing to look closely, it's still out there, waiting. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. A faint doubling, a subtle misalignment, a hidden mark that makes all the difference. These are the fingerprints of destiny, etched in copper. Once you know what to look for, every penny you touch becomes a potential treasure hunt, a chance to change your life. Collectors continue to scour estate sales, coin jars, and old collections. Dealers rush to secure even the slightest hint of a 1961 D penny showing the rare features. The market has become a high-stakes race, with millions of dollars on the line for coins that many would still overlook. So how can you tell if you hold a coin of extraordinary value? Inspect it with magnification. Look at the D mint mark and the date for doubling. Compare it to reference images from verified auction results. Don't clean it, don't polish it, and never sell without professional authentication. A single misstep could cost millions. Every time a new discovery emerges, the coin world stops in awe. Stories of ordinary people finding their fortunes in a pile of pocket change are told again and again, but each one is unique. Every 1961 D Lincoln penny carries its own history, its own silent promise, its own shot at transforming a life. And here's the truth that every collector dreams of. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's not just a coin. It's a key to history, a miracle of minting, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity waiting to be discovered. But it later sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary, so common, that nobody would ever give it a second glance, and realizing it could be worth over $1 million. That's exactly the story of the 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a tiny piece of copper hiding a fortune in plain sight. It all began during a year when the U.S. Mint was experimenting in secret. In 1967, pennies were being produced in massive quantities, yet a handful slipped through without a mint mark, a subtle detail so small that most collectors wouldn't even notice it. But this tiny omission would make all the difference. Collectors were shocked when the first of these coins appeared at auction. One coin, found in a dusty old collection, sold for a jaw-dropping sum. Dealers and numismatists couldn't believe it. How could something so ordinary, something you might find on your kitchen counter, suddenly become a treasure worth millions? The mystery deepens when you consider the minting errors hidden in plain sight. On some of these pennies, the D for Denver was completely missing, not an engraving flaw, not a polishing accident, but a genuine mint oversight. Experts describe it as a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle almost overnight, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Collectors started digging through drawers, boxes, and old piggy banks. Every forgotten coin was suddenly a potential gold mine. People who had tossed these pennies as spare change realized they were holding on to what could be life-changing wealth. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, and auctions have become battlegrounds. Some pennies have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars in near-mint condition. And then there are the rare specimens, the ones that have been preserved perfectly since 1967, that command seven figures. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely. The absence of the mint mark is your first clue. Next, examine the coin's color and wear. Original luster, sharp edges, and no post-mint damage can push its value into the stratosphere. Even the slightest imperfection can dramatically reduce its worth. Collectors are obsessed with the stories behind each coin. One coin was discovered under the floorboards of a New York apartment, wrapped in an old newspaper. Another was found in a forgotten collection in the basement of a Pennsylvania home, untouched for decades. Each coin carries a whisper of history, a silent proof that sometimes fortune hides in the smallest, most overlooked places. And yet, even with all the excitement, most people will never spot these pennies. It's like hunting for a needle in a haystack, except the needle could be worth $1 million. Dealers say that spotting the right coin requires patience, attention to detail, and a bit of luck. The kind of luck that changes lives. You don't need to travel to rare coin shows or spend thousands at auction to find one. The 1967 no mint mark penny could be sitting in your own pocket change, tucked away in a drawer or a jar on a shelf. It's hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize its true value. 1967. Then, examine the obverse and reverse sides for a missing mint mark. Pay attention to the details. The Lincoln Memorial on the back should be crisp, the lettering sharp. Avoid counterfeits and well-intentioned replicas. Any alteration destroys the value entirely. Even seasoned collectors will tell you that verification by a professional grading service is essential. Collectors around the world are sharing photos and stories online, showing just how rare this coin really is. Every discovery fuels a frenzy. It's more than a coin, it's a chance at a once-in-a-lifetime windfall. Some buyers have described the experience as surreal, holding a penny and knowing it could fund their dreams, their retirement, their family's future. Imagine the thrill of finding one tucked between your old coins. Imagine realizing that the little penny you overlooked for decades is now worth over $1 million. That's the magic of the 1967 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a humble coin turned legendary treasure. And here's the truth that keeps collectors awake at night. There are only a limited number of these pennies in existence. Every coin found increases its fame, every auction sale raises its value. The competition is fierce, and the stakes are higher than ever. But one careful eye, one moment of discovery, could change everything. Remember, this is a coin of secrets. Its story is hidden in the details. The missing mint mark, the flawless preservation, the stories of those who found them unexpectedly. Every coin tells a tale of luck, history, and chance meeting opportunity. And the history is only half the thrill. The other half is knowing that this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But today, it could be worth up to $1.7 million. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand, the kind you've probably tossed in a jar, thinking it's worthless, and realizing it could change your life forever. That's the story of the 1973 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so perfectly hidden, that it has stunned collectors across the country. It all starts with the United States Mint. In 1973, pennies were struck in Denver and Philadelphia, stamped carefully, day after day, with thousands of coins produced every minute. But sometimes, mistakes happen. Tiny, almost invisible mistakes that most people never notice. Mistakes that today turn ordinary coins into treasures worth millions. The 1973 no mint mark penny is one of those anomalies. Somewhere along the production line, a few pennies slipped through without the Denver mint mark, and they weren't just rare, they were almost impossible to find. Collectors who study these coins can barely believe it. One man discovered his coin tucked in a drawer of loose change, a coin his family had forgotten about for decades. He didn't notice it at first. It looked ordinary, copper, worn from decades in circulation. But the moment he saw the details, he realized he was holding something extraordinary. Dealers were shocked. Auction houses called him within hours. And within days, that small coin, once pocket change, was worth close to $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts examined the penny under microscopes, magnifying every line, every curve. They discovered subtle anomalies in the strike, marks that proved this coin had never seen a Denver press, a coin that slipped through a system designed to produce millions of identical pieces. It was a once-in-a-generation discovery, a coin that collectors dream about but almost never see in real life. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of the mint mark isn't always easy to spot. Some coins have smudges, some have wear from circulation, and many are counterfeit. But the 1973 no mint mark penny has very specific markers, a distinct profile of Lincoln, a precise spacing of the letters, and the faintest clues in the metal itself that hint at its secret origin. Knowing what to look for can make the difference between holding a worthless coin and $1 million treasure. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he understood this. He knew the subtle cues, the shape of the D that wasn't there, the way the metal reflected the light, the unmistakable feel of an untouched coin. Collectors who rushed to auctions saw the frenzy. Prices skyrocketed. Phones rang nonstop. People who thought they were buying a simple penny found themselves investing in a historic artifact, a coin whose rarity made it priceless. And the story doesn't end there. Over the years, new examples have surfaced, in old coin collections, in jars of forgotten coins, in rolls pulled from dusty drawers. Each discovery reignites the excitement, the same excitement that grips anyone who realizes that a simple coin could hold unimaginable wealth. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these pennies, auction houses are preparing catalogs, and collectors are scanning their change like never before. Imagine the thrill. Imagine holding a coin so rare, so coveted, that even experts can barely believe it exists. The 1973 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a story, a mystery, a secret waiting to be uncovered. And the incredible thing is, it could be hiding in your own home. That forgotten jar of pennies, the coins in your wallet, the loose change under the couch cushions, one of those could be the key to a life-changing discovery. So how do you know if you're holding this exact penny? First, look closely at the mint mark area. A genuine 1973 no mint mark penny will show no D where it normally should appear. Second, check the coin's details, Lincoln's profile, the date, the lines of the lettering. Any irregularities could signal a rare minting variation. Third, the condition matters. Coins that are heavily worn may still have value, but the ones that are nearly pristine bring the $1 million price tags. And finally, always consult a trusted expert before selling or purchasing. A single misstep could mean missing out on a fortune. Collectors have shared stories of finding these pennies in the unlikeliest places, tucked in old wallets, forgotten piggy banks, even between the pages of old books. Each discovery sends shockwaves through the coin world. People realize that history can literally fit in your pocket, and the stakes are enormous. A coin minted almost 50 years ago, overlooked by generations, suddenly commanding a price that most people only dream about. The 1973 no mint mark Lincoln penny has become more than money. It's a symbol of possibility, of luck, and of the hidden treasures that surround us every day. So before you spend that next penny, pause. Examine it. Look at the date, study the details, and imagine that it could be worth over $1 million. This isn't a story about imagination, it's about reality, about the coins that have transformed ordinary lives into stories of fortune and fame. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. That forgotten coin, the one you barely notice, may be the key to a fortune that changes everything. The next time you reach for change, remember this story. Hold each coin in your hand. Look closely. Because history, mystery, and millions of dollars could be hiding in plain